Unbelievable. Can you believe it? He did it just this weekend here. Argentina's Javier Milei has won the Argentina election. Unbelievable. Some people thought he was a shoo-in. Some people thought there is no chance that he was going to win this thing. Let's take a look and see what took place and why the country has decided to move toward a libertarian, smaller government politician. I thank everybody for checking the channel today. My name is Agabus. This is your financial education channel. Today we're taking a look at the Argentina election way down south. We're over here at the CNBC article that talks a bit about it. Argentina elects shock therapy libertarian Javier Milei as president. Official results showed that Milei, with near 56% of the votes versus his rival of 44%, he's pledging shock therapy, their words, including shuttering the central bank, ditching the peso, and slashing government spending. He's going to have to deal with $44 billion in debt to the International Monetary Fund and an inflation rate of 150% and a dizzying array of capital controls. As mentioned before, Milei has won 56% of the vote against his rival, Sergei Massa, who concluded in the speech. According to Massa, obviously results are not what we expected. I've contacted Javier to congratulate him. From tomorrow, the responsibility of providing certainty belongs to Milei. Milei is pledging economic shock therapy, some would call it. His plans include shutting down the central bank, ditching the peso, slashing government spending, and potentially painful reforms that resonated with voters angry at the economic malaise. When you say angry at the economic malaise, could that be the 150% inflation? Could that be Uber drivers and just common folk who are looking for gas because there's a gas shortage out there? Could it be that there's a normal market and a black market for certain items that you can't see? This article mentions capital controls. Could it be maybe the government's putting capital controls in place which restricts free market and restricts both supply side and demand side of the equation? I don't know, but you tell me. This 31-year-old said Milei is a new thing. He's a bit of an unknown, and it's a little scary, but it's time to turn over a new page. Some Argentinians characterize the vote as the lesser of two evils. Fear of Milei's painful economic medicine versus anger at Massa and his Peronist party for an economic crisis that has left Argentina deeply in debt and unable to tap global credit markets. Our generation is pushing the presidency of Milei to stop our country being a pariah, according to a 22-year-old student in Buenos Aires. Some say the election marks a profound rupture in the system of political representation in Argentina. As some of you may know, Milei is a very volatile character, and he has brought a chainsaw to some of his speeches to illustrate the importance of him trying to cut down on government spending and regulations. According to a teacher, Milei's policies are scary to me. And I think the interesting part of this whole Argentina election is that the Argentina population is 45 million people as of 2021. Just for reference, here in the U.S., California is the largest with 39 million people, Texas with 29 million, so much larger than any state here. Not too far off from California, I would argue. But the interesting thing to me is that according to Merkelpress.com, in Argentina, 55% of all registered workers are employed by the government. So I think it's fair to say if some guy comes in and says, we're going to cut spending, we're going to cut taxes, we're going to deregulate, that's half of the population that's job might be on the line. However, if 55% of registered workers are employed by the government and Milei won 56% of the popular vote, well, that would tell me that there's a lot of government workers who voted for the guy. Now, when you compare this to the United States federal government, the United States has a little bit under 3 million, which is around 1.9% of U.S. workers. Again, compare that to Argentina. Argentina's federal workers is like every other house. If you went out the door and started knocking, 50%, every other person would work for the federal government. We're here in the U.S., if you walk around, it's 1 or 2 out of 100 homes that work for the federal government. We're over here again at CNBC, where they try to do a little bit of a smear campaign. in my opinion. Trump admiring populist Milei wins in Argentina, edging the country closer to a dollarized economy. The far-right libertarian, what does that mean these days? Outsider has pledged to dollarize the economy, abolish the country's central bank, and privatize the pension system. We have the determination to put Argentina on its feet and to move forward, Milei said shortly after his victory. Now again, he's going to have some pretty big hills to overcome. As mentioned before, inflation rate, according to this article, is 140%, where it was 150 before. 2 in 5 Argentines now live in poverty, and key agricultural areas have been hit by a historic drought. Steve Hanke was on a recent interview with CNBC and discussed the dollarization of Argentina. And he says the key problem in Argentina since 1876 has been the peso, going back to the central bank and going back to the currency. He added that one currency crisis after another, one recession after another, defaults on debt one after another. They had 3 defaults on their sovereign debt since the year 2000, and current inflation rate, according to Steve, is 220% in Argentina. He said it's all tangled up with the central bank and the peso. So Milei has the right idea. You've got to dollarize, and many of the arguments against dollarization are absolute rubbish. The interesting part for me is not only some of his crazy remarks, but it's also the idea of getting rid of the central bank. He's also mentioned in previous interviews that he would be a fan of putting Bitcoin on the country's balance sheet. So for libertarians, for small government people, for Bitcoiners, I think today is an amazing day. We shall see how this all plays out. I think he will run into some difficulty because both sides in the government are not libertarian as he is. So he may run into some issues with the political class once he gets into office. But give me your comments in the comment section below. What do you think would take place with the market, with the economy, with Argentina? Would love to know. Thank you so much as always for chiming in. Thank you so much for listening. As always, stay informed, stay subscribed for more. And as always, stay inquisitive, stay informed, and stay subscribed for more. We will see you tomorrow.